Mic check 1 2. Recording. Hi. They really don't want to do multiple this. I think it just makes sense for me to you know, do it all in one take. Yeah. So there's no script. However, I'm gonna be having my notes on my phone in case I dwell uh off topic. That's sort of like a tendency that I have. I want to do this again. This intro sucks. The mask is hurting my fucking eye, man. It won't can't see anything, but doesn't really matter. I can read my notes. Yeah, they're fine. They're fine. The year is done. I'm not even wearing pink anymore. Nothing pink around here. It's fucking messy. I gotta do it as all. I've never had the opportunity to meet a cancer survivor, so every single person I ever knew who had cancer, or you know, who fought cancer, like, yeah, yeah. So, you know, but it just made sense. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. I need a moment to compose myself for a bit. Okay. I don't know if this will be the video I'll be using for the channel.
Not even close, baby! Technoblade never dies! Technoblade never dies! Never question me again, chat!
Growing up, I never had my own YouTube channel. I would usually borrow my family's iPad to watch whatever was on YouTube at the time. I didn't know how to like videos or what subscribe meant because whenever I pressed the like or subscribe button, it would redirect me to a different page to make your own account. And I guess Baby Anonymous's brain was like, "Danger, danger, foreign screen alert, emergency, exit this page immediately!" And then continue watching the video like nothing happened. Of course, this all changed when I got my first ever phone. It was around late 2016 after I accidentally downloaded a virus on a hand me down phone I used to have. I was given a new phone, brand new, and after years of restriction and borrowing from everybody and anybody I knew, I could finally watch YouTube on my own. I created my own YouTube channel, and with it came a lot of perks that were new to me at the time. Liking videos was a first for me. I could finally subscribe to channels, and that allowed me to pay more and more attention to specific YouTubers, which I later found out meant that I was a fan. I was subscribed to PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, the big and popular YouTubers. I was also subscribed to a bunch of animation channels as well, since I had a huge interest in animation. I mean, I still do. It's my job. But I was subscribed to Jaden Animations, Tony V Tunes, The Odd Ones Out, Alan Becker, even some more obscure channels like Macario, Crazy is Crazy, and Neon Biscuit. I'll talk about them soon since they were also very important to me, but that's a. That's another video for another time. Of course, one of the channels I was subscribed to back then was, well, Technoblade. I remember stumbling upon his video of him playing Minecraft hardcore mode with a steering wheel. That video, and since my thought process at the time was, "Ooh, Minecraft funny," I began watching. I never realized it, but he managed to keep me entertained for 20 minutes straight. Didn't even realize it. Felt like 10 minutes. With this revelation, I just had to subscribe, and that was probably the best decision of my life. Over the years, my interests changed. Some of the YouTubers I had subscribed to either switched content or left, but Technoblade never really went away. I guess his inconsistent upload schedule played a role in why I still had a interest in him. You could never expect a video from him, which made his videos all the more meaningful. When he started posting his Hypixel Skyblock videos, I felt like that was where I peaked as a Technoblade fan. I don't know how, but he managed to make something as boring and daunting as playing Hypixel Skyblock and make it the best game you've ever heard. I gotta be honest, he made me jealous that, I didn't have a Minecraft account, because he made the game sound so fun. I remember when I finally got my own Minecraft account, I immediately started playing Hypixel Skyblock. When I finally got to the hub, my inventory was filled with boats. Never played it again after that. I'd make the argument that Techno's Potato War series was his peak. It really showcased his innate ability to tell a story with twists nobody could ever expect, whilst introducing me to a great piece of literature, that being the art of war. I know that sounds stupid, knowing the fact that I heard about the art of war from a person who used it in a video game and not for business, apparently. But honestly, you could argue that Techno essentially brought forth the art of war to my generation flawlessly. I can't really think of any. Can't really think of a funnier way to introduce that book to anyone, honestly. When the Dream SMP started gaining traction, I was honestly surprised. First of all, I didn't know that Dream was this good Minecraft player. I only knew him as the guy who helped find PewDiePie's seed. I actually found out about the Dream SMP because of Wilbur Soot. I knew Wilbur from Soot House and started following him more once he started making music and playing Minecraft with Schlatt. I also knew Schlatt before. Yeah. I didn't pay too much attention to the Dream SMP lore. I just wasn't that interested in it. Until Sadist decided to blow it out of proportion with their amazing animation skills, which, made things a little bit more interesting. This was also around the time I decided to get myself more involved with Sadist's community. When Techno joined the Dream SMP, I started paying more attention. I was there for his signature wit and dry humor and his signature monotone voice. Sadly, I never really got to attend a live stream since, time zones are a real pain in the ass. But I usually search up compilations of him and him only. Okay, maybe just a little bit of Wilbur Soot and Tommy in it, since I was beginning to have a bit of interest in his content as well around this time. I feel like Techno perfected his online persona when he joined the Dream SMP. He took every single characteristic he had, his skill in PvP, his wit, his humor, his great storytelling skills, and the fact that he was an anarchist. He took all of these traits together and combined them into this, essentially perfect iteration of Techno's character. He was basically in his element. I said that Techno's peak was when he started doing his when he started posting his Potato War videos, but Techno's character was perfected during his time in Dream SMP. I remember cheering him on when he dueled Dream. Yeah, it was morning. I just woken up and I saw a new Mr. Beast video on the TV. And yes, we have YouTube on our TV. Technology, it's amazing. I had to stay quiet since my other family members were still sleeping. The entire match was intense. It was hard for me not to get too hyped up. But when Techno won, yeah, let's just say I woke my entire family up. And come on, it's a good match. It was a good match, okay? That was also around the time I started saying Technoblade never dies as a battle cry. I mean, it's fun to say, that feeling of pride and strength as you open your mouth up and puff out your chest as you begin to prepare yourself to scream at the top of your lungs to provoke your opponent. They're not even going to expect what you're going to say, but once you scream, they'll be so confused. But deep down, they know they're screwed. Or at least that's how I envisioned it whenever I said it while I was playing Bed Wars. I never won a round. Techno inspired me to have stupid goals for the sake of being funny. To this day, I try to find the weirdest things that, I find fun and do my best to, you know, actually achieve, you know, a, something, like with Osaka Simulator or, you know, just doing the weirdest things that I just find funny for the sake of being funny. If it wasn't for techno, I probably wouldn't have done, you know, that at all. Back when I was still a sane person. Yeah, techno really inspired me a lot. He really did, in more ways than one.
They ran a couple of scans and then they came back and they told me that the reason my arm hurts is because I have cancer.
I remember the day I heard about the news. This was around the time I still used Twitter, so I mean, it was last year, so yeah, it's been a while. My usual routine was, waking up and checking, what was trending, at the time. And I saw Technoblade, I was curious and all. Like, what did he do this time? Something funny? Did he post a new video? Was it like Dream SMP lore or whatever? I don't know. And so I started scrolling through the posts and, it was support for what? What happened? What was this whole techno support thing? What's going on? I mean, I understand that, Technoblade has a pretty supportive fan base, but this was unlike anything I've seen before. But, the first post that I read that mentioned cancer, I felt my heart drop, honestly. I immediately went to his channel and, I saw that he posted a new video, a black thumbnail with a title written in small lowercase letters. I was worried. It was rare for Techno to be this serious about anything, if he was ever serious about anything at all. At least, from my memory. I don't know. When I started watching the video, it just felt like the usual Technoblade video. He was playing Bed Wars, telling stories, and the posts were right. Technoblade had cancer. My heart sank. My arms felt weak, and I was speechless. I didn't know what to react. Obviously, I was scared, first of all, and then, suddenly I felt optimistic. So optimistic, in fact, that I even tweeted about. No, 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 seriously. You know, Techno made it sound like he actually, had a pretty good chance. I mean, he sounded confident and all. Sure, it was cancer, but couldn't be that bad, you know. It was just it's probably just a little tumor that be removed by his surgery or chemo. I don't know. Medicine isn't my passion anymore. You know, over time, you know, he sounded like he was getting better ish, sort of. I mean, it felt like he was somewhat like, I don't know how to describe it, like a neutral state. Like I knew he had cancer, but it felt like it wasn't progressing any further. Or at least that's what he made it sound like. You know, but seriously, this this all felt too familiar to me. This wasn't the first time I encountered someone I knew having cancer. You know, I knew some people who had cancer before. You know, obviously, all of them were pretty close to me. You know, friends and family and stuff. Um, None of them survived. It's like this pattern. You know, at first they feel sick. You know, when they go through the first stage of chemo, they get really weak, but over time they get better and they start getting better and stronger. They feel happier. It's like they don't have any problems, and then suddenly they just ooze the battle. It was only natural for me to feel that way with techno, but you know, I brushed those thoughts off. He was gonna survive. I told myself he was gonna make a full recovery. Oh, he was almost an amputee. Well, you know, they removed a few bones from him. That's fine as long as he can survive. You know, he'll be fine. Everything's fine. He was getting better too. He was going through physical therapy and stuff. You know, like you know, he was playing Minecraft in VR. Physical therapy. I mean, he did lose a few bones, so his mobility did seem a bit limited and stuff, but you know, that was understandable. I really thought he was going to make it.
Hello, everyone. Technoblade here. If you're watching this, I am dead. So let's sit down and have one final chat.
I was working on the third video of a little series I like to call the Crappy Commercial Saga. It started early 2022. You know, I got sick. No, it wasn't COVID, but I was just sick, so I had to, you know, I still had to isolate myself for, you know, safety reasons. You know, keep in mind, you know, vaccines around this time were still in development, or if I remember it correctly. So, you know, we really had to be cautious. You know, so I got bored. I was just sitting down doing nothing. I didn't know what to do. So I began to think, you know, Ross. Yeah. Ross, Complexly Ross, my good friend, you know, Ross something something, you know. Ross, boss, sauce. You know, Ross rhymed with sauce. Ross sauce. Yeah, I should do that. Took me about like 15 to 30 minutes to make the entire commercial. You know, I mean, it wasn't all that high quality and stuff, but you know, it was still funny. You know, not that high quality, but it was still funny nonetheless. You know, I posted it on my Twitter. Ross retweeted it and started gaining traction. A lot of people thought it was funny, so I decided to do another one. This time with Saddest. In that very same commercial, you know, the raw sauce commercial that I made, I actually made another 3D model of a milk carton with Saddest's mask on it, called it, you know, obviously Saddest Milk, out of complete coincidence. I just want to make it clear that it wasn't like an innuendo or anything like that. It was just a one-off thing, like you know how jokes are and stuff. Get over it. I gave a little bit more effort into the video. It took me an entire day to think about it, you know, from, you know, how was it going to like, how was it going to, you know, be edited and such, you know. So I decided, you know, I tried editing it like an Apple commercial and I finished it. And I started showing it to people. You know, they all thought it was pretty funny. Saddest herself, even saw the video because Ross showed it to her. If I remember correctly, she thought it was pretty funny. I mean, it was okay, you know. I began thinking about making the third and last commercial because I can only really do so much of these commercials before they start becoming cringe. Ross and Sadis's duo name is, they like to call themselves the Scuffed Duo or something. I don't know why. I began having visions of a fictional, terribly 3D modeled shopping mart. Scuffed Mart. Yeah, that sounded like a great idea. Started storyboarding and thinking about how the commercial was going to go. It was going to be my most ambitious project yet. I got so many people on board to help me out make this video and such. I even got a friend of mine named Will to make the 3D model of the shopping mall. And, I specifically told him, not to put too much effort into it and just try to make it as terribly as he could possibly do. I just want to mention this. Keep in mind, this dude knows what he's doing with Blender. He was practically a master of his craft. So when he sent over the model, I was just in shock. It was, it was so perfect and detailed and stuff. And he was like, it took me like an hour. It's fine. We're cool. It's bad. And I was like, no, you put too much effort into this. What do you mean? It looks good. Yeah, but no, seriously, he did a really great job on the model. Yeah. This was around the time I began recording behind the scenes, what things were like during the making of the video because I was so occupied with it. And, yeah, I guess I thought it would have been nice. I even asked one of my friends if I could borrow his house to use as a set for one of the bits of the video, that he was completely fine with. I got Frank, obviously one of my good friends, part of Page Down. Cool guy, he can sing. He's also pretty great at editing, so I asked him if he could help me out with the video and as well. He did a great job, a really great job. We worked closely together during, in a call, a Discord VC. Once it was my turn to work on the video, I started, filming myself behind a green screen, and I was ready to begin editing my part of the video. But I know it sounds weird that I'm telling you all this, but what happens next should at least give you some context as to why I recorded this.
So, we lost Technoblade, I think. I think I'm gonna have to postpone the... I think we're gonna need a little bit of time.
It was June 30, 2022. I woke up and I opened Twitter up for the first time in a while. I'm not really too sure because this probably was around the time I quit using Twitter. I saw what was trending and I saw Technoblade's name pop up again, and I was curious. What did he do this time? And, I felt the same way I did last time. His name popped up in the trending tab and I was questioning all that, Started scrolling through the posts and, I was confused like I always was. What's with all this techno support stuff, techno support was new to me. A lot of people drew fan arts, shared support for techno even during his announcement, during him having cancer. So what was new? Well, I noticed people started drawing techno with a halo and saying rest in peace and tributes and all that. My hands started shaking. One thing led to another. I felt my heart sank. What you'd expect from someone hearing the news for the first time. But I didn't believe it immediately, But I just went to Techno's channel, noticed that he posted a new video, black thumbnail with a worrying title. written in lowercase again. But something was different. Started watching it, and tried holding back the tears as I heard that he died. And all of a sudden, my phone dies because I forgot to charge it. I immediately, left my bed, started running down the stairs all the way to my laptop to continue watching the video. Never ran that fast in my life before, I'd say. But they were right. Technoblade died. He was gone. He was dead. So after I recorded that message, I started crying silently. Did my best to hold in my tears. My cousin noticed that I was crying and she was, confused as to why, naturally. And I just told her what happened. She was all like, "Oh, yeah, I heard the news. Who was he?" Just started explaining who he was. And yeah, I don't think she cared too much, but I couldn't blame her. None of my family really would have understood my reason why I would have cried. Even if I did explain it to them, they would just think it was a stupid reason and that I shouldn't cry over something like that. As a man and all that. Yeah, have to be strong. But that's the type of household I live in. But I remember going to my grandparents' room, started hugging them. They just asked why I was crying, and couldn't bring myself to tell them what really happened. I just told them something really bad happened. But yeah, comforted me. Told me things were gonna be okay and that I'll be okay. And that's all I really needed, honestly. It's everything I could have ever asked for. Now, of course, I I didn't stop mourning that very day. For the entire month, I couldn't get him out of my mind. Tried doing everything, just to stop feeling bad for once. Started playing the weirdest games on Roblox with friends. I remember playing this one game where you try to find an egg in a field of grass. The only problem was the egg was very small. So yeah, I played that for a while. I never really found it. So yeah. Yeah, eventually I got confronted by my mother. She wasn't all too happy to see me upset, and I just didn't want to tell her. I really didn't want to tell her why, because I didn't want to. But I had to, because I didn't want her to keep yelling at me to tell her why. So I told her, someone I knew passed away. That's it. Started asking who, and I just had to tell her someone I knew online. She didn't comfort me. She just told me, why would you mourn for someone you've never met? That doesn't make sense. That stuck with me for, the entire year. I didn't know if I should mourn or not. I didn't know what to do. I really didn't. It was the end of July. Still felt awful, empty, and all that. Still couldn't accept the fact that Techno was gone. Couldn't even bring myself to watch one of his videos because it just felt painful to do so. Tried ignoring everything about him for the entirety of July, really. Whenever a video would pop up, I'd just say I'm not interested. Search up his name, just remove it. It hurt. But I remember one night, it was the last day of July last year, 2022. I looked myself in the mirror this one time. I just decided right there and then that I was gonna start wearing pink. I was gonna wear pink for an entire year for Technoblade. Pink was his signature color, so it made sense. So I did. Started asking my family if we could buy pink shirts, pants, shorts, really anything wearable that was pink. At first they were all like, "Oh, did you finally decide to support this candidate?" Because at the time I was apolitical. Yeah, I technically still am, but I just, I just don't share my opinion on politics as much as my family does. Of course I wouldn't wear pink because of some politician. It took me a while to eventually convince them that I was wearing pink for an entirely different reason. But I had to lie to my family just so they would at least understand somehow that I was going through, something bad. Instead of telling them that a famous YouTuber I liked watching died, so I'm wearing pink as a tribute, I just told them I'm wearing pink to honor a friend of mine who died. They sort of understood it, but I'll never really know. I just hope that they have it, have it in mind at least or something. I had to constantly wear pink at all times, but I only had so many pink shirts. I always wear white shirts or gray shorts. So, how did I do it? Well, I have braces. The cool thing about braces is that you can choose the color of the little rubber things they put on them. I don't know what they're called. I have to ask Frank if he knows what they're called. So every time I had to get my braces readjusted, Frank would ask me, and yes, he does adjust my braces himself. He's a great dentist. Singing doesn't really get you that much money. But, whenever they would ask what color would I want my braces to be this time, I'd always say pink. Since I had to get my braces readjusted every month or so, it just made sense that I just choose pink. Every time I went outside, I'd wear pink. Pink polos, pink button-down shirts, pink shorts. Everything I had to wear, outside had to be pink, despite my family telling me to wear literally anything else. But at the end of the day, they still supported me. Eventually my mother started buying pink stuff for me because she knew that I liked pink. I don't like pink. I had to tell her multiple times that I don't like pink specifically. I'm honoring a friend of mine. Yeah. But, there was this one outfit that I was genuinely proud of, The one outfit that I was genuinely proud of during that whole year was my suit for prom. I didn't make it, I'm not a tailor, I don't know how to make clothes, but, I sort of kind of planned the design, I guess. I don't know. It was this plum colored tuxedo, and if you don't know what plum is, just imagine like the color of wine. All right, it was this plum colored tuxedo with this tie with this amazing pattern. And I was wearing this black undershirt. The pants were plum colored too, and my shoes were this. The shoes were black, but this was like this pointy like shape, like a jester. And the reason why I wanted it to look like that was because it was really meant to mirror how I was feeling at the time, since my classmates, or Or at least most of them treated me terribly. But that's a story for another time. It was all colored plum or black, but you know, the one thing that I really insisted on being part of the suit was this pink rose. And of course, this rose was beautiful, you know. But by fashion standards, or at least from what I heard, a pink rose to a colored, a plum colored suit doesn't really fit. But to those who know me well, know that I have absolutely no sense of fashion. I'll wear whatever, but in this case, this pink rose, I really insisted to be part of the suit, no matter what. They suggested gold, but I knew it had to be pink. Gold would have been nice, but it's a year of pink, not a year of gold. As Techno's not really known for his crown. He was known for being, a pig. But yeah, I guess his crown is his second cool, accessory. I don't know. I don't know. But when I saw it for the first time, it was perfect. The suit represented everything that was going in my mind at the time. I had all this repressed anger from my classmates and turned into something so elegant, beautiful. I'm running out of synonyms. But despite, all that anger, all that pain, there was still a little bit of peace. This bright pink colored rose on my chest, close to my heart. The rose, his influence, it was still there with me. And it always will. It always will.
Welcome, friends, to another episode of Sky Wars.
Yo.
Yeah, oh man, you nailed it. That was it.
This, this deserves to be its own entire section or chapter, since everybody I've talked to up until this point always brings up the fact that, I sound like Technoblade. Like my voice is a perfect iteration of, his voice, the constant, oh, you sound like Techno, oh, your voice sounds like Technoblade. Sometimes it even go as far as to say that I am Techno. Some people still call me Techno to this day, sometimes. But, this has happened before, even before, everything that happened. At first, I just brush it off as a funny little comment. I didn't really think about it too much. But then it would get more and more common, almost to the point where every single time I was in a voice chat, there was a chance someone would just bring it out. Obviously, at that point, it got really annoying. I couldn't talk without someone bringing up that comment, at all. I had to tell them outright that, I know that I sound like Techno. I know. I know. Don't have to tell me. But there were a few instances where they didn't listen. Heck, they even continued doing so. Telling me that I sound like Techno, even after I told them that I really didn't want people to tell me that I sounded like Techno. Since at this point the message was as clear as day, but it wouldn't stop at all. I just wanted to talk to people, but they would always just have to bring it up. After everything that happened, I was really defensive about those comments on my voice. I would get mad, like genuinely mad, angry, when someone told me that I sounded like Techno. I couldn't hold myself back at one point. I was that close to snapping. I really was. But this one comment, this one specific comment, seriously ticked me off. I was curious this time. Wanted to watch someone play Minecraft or something, and then this guy, I'm not gonna say their name out of respect, but I know who it was. Out of nowhere. And I know they were joking. They said, "Hey guys, Techno's back from the dead." That just that just hurt in so many different ways. They even tried reporting the dude to the mods, but all they got was a verbal warning. That's it. I don't even know if they had, they even gave him a warning. I don't know. I don't know. That was furious. But I had to keep my calm. Couldn't even let my anger get the best of me since I really didn't want to get banned off that server. I had to keep doing that, that constant cycle of keeping in my anger every single time someone told me that I sounded like Techno. It sucked. But everything changed until, everything changed when I met this guy named River. I'll talk more about them later.
Really miss him. I really fucking do. And I'm not sure if I'll ever get my head really fully around what has happened.
This question kept popping up for the majority of the year. What my mother told me kept echoing at the back of my mind constantly. It got to me. I didn't really fight it. I didn't question or do anything against it because, it really did make sense at the time. You know, I don't hate my mother for telling me that because, normally you wouldn't really mourn for someone you don't know. I mean, what made Techno special? He was just like everybody else, right? All these thoughts kept flooding my mind constantly. I remember there was a instance where someone replied to a message I sent. I don't know what it was. It was something about me, remembering Techno. I remember it was this one guy who told me, why are we mourning for this one guy? There's a lot of people who die from cancer. What made him so special? Yeah. It got to a point where I even began doubting myself for, you know, doing so, for mourning. It seemed like a stupid thing. It even got to a point where I began getting angry at myself for mourning in the first place. But I remember this one time I had with my philosophy teacher. We had this project where we had to write our thoughts down in a journal. It could have been any thoughts, really. It could be what you liked, what show you were watching, whatever. But like I mentioned before, all I had in mind was, if it wasn't, my hatred for my class was, well, techno. I mean, I had, other things going on, but, whatever. I remember writing this really long entry about him. If I remember correctly, it was like 2 full pages back to back, just all about him. Yeah. I, you know, I submitted my journal over and I didn't really think about it too much. When I went to get my journal back, he called me over for a moment. He noticed my long entry and he actually read it. I was surprised, but what he did next touched me. He gave his condolences. Just to give you all some context, I'm very religious. So this really meant a lot to me. I mean, it's not like techno was religious or, was a part of my family or anything, but, to offer someone their condolences over any loss, it was a really sincere way of showing respect. It meant a lot. Yeah. Flash forward to a few months, my classmates were doing this class project. which I didn't really want to pay too much attention to since it was getting loud. I mean, I did my part well, and I wasn't really needed for anything other than to be on standby, which, basically meant I wasn't really needed anymore. So I decided to just go outside the classroom to get some air, some fresh, fresh air, and to have some peace and quiet, since I really hated how my classmates were getting so loud. It was really irritating. Yeah, I remember I was reading this book. It was the Animator's Survival Kit. Great book, by the way. Y'all should get a copy. It's pretty useful. But I was reading a book, and out of nowhere, my philosophy teacher approaches me. Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, he did ask me why I was outside, and I told him why, of course. But out of nowhere, he wanted to ask me about, the entry I wrote. I really had to paint like this a really I had to paint like a really blunt way of responding to his question, since I still didn't want to tell him it was a YouTuber. I just kept telling him it was a friend I knew online who died. I began going on about how he was an inspiration to a lot of people, broke records and all that. Even told him he was the reason I knew about the existence of the art of war. He acknowledged it, he also knew about the art of war, and he was pretty surprised, yeah. He then, went on about how he felt reading my entry. He was honest all throughout. He told me that he didn't really understand why I would mourn for someone I only knew online. But he knew my heart was in the right place. He didn't question it too much, but at least he understood it was a heavy thing I was dealing with. Started telling his own story about someone he was close to who died unexpectedly. It sucked. I knew it wasn't easy for him, but he wasn't crying at all. No sad tone whatsoever. He was completely at peace, like he accepted it. I mean, it wasn't like it happened years ago or anything. It was just how he perceived death. Death can happen at any moment. You can't deny that at all. You can drag it on and carry the weight of it on your shoulders and suffer, or you can learn to accept it, appreciate the time you had with them instead of plaguing your mind constantly of what happened. Try to appreciate what you did with them. They should be, remembered for that, not for their death. That's what he told me, or at least, you know, how I remembered it. It took me a while to fully understand what he said, but when I did, I really felt a little bit better. I couldn't forget about him. I couldn't forget about Techno at all, but I could move on from what happened and just keep moving forward with his memory with me. And this is funny because this was the same lesson I used in my previous, video, the 41-minute long Oshinoko video, the continuation of me talking to Ai. Yeah, I know it sounds sudden. Yeah, I know it sounds sudden, but hear me out, all right? I just remember, while I was editing it, I thought about how the ending was gonna be like, 'cause, since, how was I gonna, paint it, how was I gonna do it? And, I thought, I began thinking about what my philosophy teacher told me, and I just had to at least incorporate it into my work. Although I will admit the video was a bit sloppy, the editing was a bit out of place. The quality changed. I still don't know why it exported at 480p, but whatever, you know. Yeah, although the video is a bit sloppy, this really is the main reason why I'm still proud of it. Sure, I worked with an amazing voice actress, which, by the way, please check out Julie's work. She is an amazing person. Such an honor to have worked with her. But, anyway, I worked with an amazing voice actress and I poured hours upon hours of work on it, pretty much an entire month's worth of work, but even with all that, the sole reason why I'm so proud of it is because of the lesson I used, the lesson I learned from my philosophy teacher. It was at that point where I really understood what he meant.
You'll never catch me alive! I'm out of here! Yo! Yo! Wait, this is awkward! Yo! Ah!
Around the last few months of the year, I remember I felt like I was at a point where it seemed like I was beginning to come to terms with Techno's death. I didn't feel anything bad thinking about him for a while. Started watching his videos again, and I just kept on laughing, like I always did. I felt good. It's been a while since I felt good about anything related to Techno. I began reminiscing about how happy I felt watching his videos, remembering the stupid and funny things he did, and even started watching his older videos. It was fun. Spent those days feeling happy, yeah. But as the days went on, that feeling of guilt came back, like a switch slowly turned on. Am I gonna forget him? That thought came up, and I felt like how I felt when I heard about the news for the first time. What I thought at the time was if I were to accept Techno's death, I might just forget about him. And I didn't want that to happen at all. No, I can't just forget him. It wasn't like when I accept people's death, I forget about them. No, not at all. It's just they don't really pop up in my mind that much. I couldn't picture that with Techno. I had to remember him. It felt like an obligation. With all these things happening to me at once, I felt like I went back a stage of grief, which at the time I didn't even know was possible. I later found out that grief isn't necessarily a straight line where you experience each stage once and it's all done. Sometimes it's a cycle. Sometimes you skip a stage or repeat a stage over and over again. Sometimes you stay at one stage and you just never move past it. Not that I have, but the ones who never did, I really do. I felt denial again for a few weeks. I kept anticipating for a new upload from Techno's channel. Maybe like a secret video he never put out. I mean, he was known for being a pretty good planner of things. If you're gonna manage to pull off something as stupid as being the number one potato farmer, you have to at least have a plan set in stone. But he never did have a secret video planned at all. Never had one. No unlisted video for people to look for. Because, or so I've heard, all of the unlisted videos on his channel were now public. And they were all just old videos of him playing Blitz. I remember watching those videos, and for some reason, I felt somewhat, for a lack of a better word, melancholic. I was happy that I could enjoy something new from Techno, but that sadness knowing that the kid that I was listening to was gone, it hurt. I felt sad. I skipped the stage of grief. Didn't even realize it. This was still around the time I wasn't happy with people comparing my voice to Techno. I was angry. I still was. The comments didn't change, however, as more and more people began calling me a reincarnation of Techno. I had to face an entirely new problem, which sucked for a while. All of this was happening at once, and I just refused to accept. I refused to think that techno was now gone, and I can't do anything to change it. Looking back, I feel guilty for doing so. It was like I was intentionally making myself hurt for the sake of a tribute only I was doing, for a person who wasn't around anymore. It wasn't like I was doing it for validation or attention, but the thought of doing so sickens me. I don't want to do anything that harms me that much for a tribute anymore. Felt like a disservice and an insult to what Techno stood for during his last moments here. He was suffering, but it wasn't like he made it his only reason why he made people buy his merch or donate to the Sarcoma Foundation. He encouraged people to donate to charity. There was a big difference between the two, and clearly I didn't see that difference. I'm sorry. I really am. I remember this one time I decided to hop on a voice channel in Strawberry GS's server out of boredom. I wanted to strike up a conversation with someone there. Anybody, really. An ancient technique Discord's users do if they want to talk to someone in a voice chat is to live stream themselves playing a game or really anything that piques anyone's interest. I just so happened to do that. It took a while, but someone actually joined. I couldn't remember who she was. It definitely wasn't Strawberry GS herself. But I remember that she was also a mother, I think. We started talking about really anything, what was going on in our lives and what we were doing. I remember I started going on about techno, my tribute, and how I wanted to meet this guy named River King. Now, I did mention River earlier. This is actually the part where I talk about him. He was pretty important to how I began to accept the fact that I can sound like techno. I remember watching a video of Techno Dad joining this SMP. It was hosted by Strawberry GS. It was this video of him using Technoblade's mic, the legendary Blue Yeti, or so I've heard. They were joking around, even asking Techno Dad to do Techno's intro whenever he would start his stream. He would have usually said, starting the stream, and he did that. And then out of nowhere, this guy just says, yo, and it caught Techno Dad by surprise. It was a really flawless imitation of Techno's voice. Then he went on to do it two more times, and, it was honestly just really amazing to hear. I was in shock. Like, who was this guy? It didn't take long for me to figure that out. This guy who could do Techno's voice really well was, well, named River King. I found out in a comment made by him under that exact same video that he even called himself a Technoblade voice actor. When I read that, I was just silent. You have to remember, that my perspective at the time was, the mere mention of having your voice compared to techno was possibly the most irritating thing to hear because literally everyone you'd talk to would mention it. So, it was just hard for me to even understand why he would be so open about it. I remember bringing it up in that very conversation we had. I just had to ask. She was really nice. Of course, she wasn't River himself, but she went on about how he just accepted it. It wasn't his brand or anything, but it was just cool for him to do so. It wasn't a big deal when people asked him to do it, and there were even cases where he would do it publicly in voice chats, or at least that's what I remember. When I heard that, it felt like everything changed for me. I started reflecting on myself about it, my voice and everything, how I should approach those types of comments and stuff. It took me a while, but I got to the conclusion of I know I can do Techno's voice. I know that he's gone, but his voice will never die out. His videos are literally preserved till the hypothetical end of YouTube or the internet in general. It's not like when I do his voice, I'm insulting the guy. Hell, I don't want to. I don't want to milk content from it. I don't want to profit off of it. I don't want to do much with this ability other than to have fun with it. I can always say his catchphrases, and I know that makes me laugh, so why not? Let's try having fun with his voice. It's not like it's anyone's job to command me to do it. If it wasn't for River, or if it wasn't for that person that I talked to telling me that, I wouldn't have had a different perspective on having a voice similar to Techno. Of course, I didn't know River's own journey to discovering that he could, imitate Techno's voice well. I remember reading something along the lines of, him practicing for years to do that voice, which was interesting. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll ask him more about it. I also remember talking about meeting Techno Dad. The fact that he would give so much of his time that he would have just used to mourn for his son. He went out and decided to be so open with Techno's community, even interacting with them from time to time. Of course, you have to understand that Techno's death hit him the most. It hit Techno's family the most. I can't imagine the pain they must have felt, but I know how it felt like losing a family member. I sympathized with him a lot, but seeing him telling stories about Techno back when he was a baby, talking to Techno's friends, and giving so much effort to tell everyone that they had purpose and love to give to the world, that they were important, while he was still grieving for his son. It made me cry, goddammit. She also knew about, Techno Dad's efforts. Heck, she even met him herself. I was just, I didn't know what to say. I was just surprised. I really don't know what word to use, but I'd hope you'd at least understand. She went on about how he was so nice, so welcoming, even if it was just for a little bit. What she said next changed everything that I was thinking at that very, very moment. She told me that Techno Dad himself said that it was completely okay for us to mourn for his son. Even if he never knew me, her, or really most of his fans, we still meant everything to Techno. If it wasn't for us, he wouldn't have been the man he was then, and the man that we all love today. I could only say that I just wish I could have told Techno that he meant a lot to us too. He meant so much to us. So much. So much. We had such a wonderful conversation. She was great. I'm just so sorry that I don't remember her name. Maybe one day we'll meet again. And once we do, I'll probably show her this video and thank her for talking to me and telling me everything. But that wasn't it. We didn't stop talking there. In fact, surprisingly, out of nowhere, River King himself joined the VC if it didn't get any more better. Well, you have to remember that time zones exist. So, it made sense that, he told us that he just woke up. I noticed that he knew the person I was talking to, and I could tell that they were at least somewhat close because he just immediately started asking her if he did what he told her or something. I don't know. I know it was some sort of a project on Strawberry GS's SMP, but I can't really remember the details. Probably for the best. I introduced myself to River. We talked for a bit, sort of. I don't know. I don't know if he got the fact that I could also talk or sound like techno, but I remember the both of. I remember. Excuse me. I remember the both of us going bruh, and it felt like the two of us harmonized. He probably didn't recognize, but I did, and I still remember it. He was a pretty cool guy. I wouldn't say he was chill, because he just kept bugging the person I was talking to finish what he told her to do, almost like he was commanding her. I knew it wasn't like that serious, but damn, his tone and everything, for a lack of a better term, it felt seriously techno-ish, albeit a bit more aggressive. And then he left. He had to switch devices because keep in mind he just woke up, so he was talking on his phone, I think. And then he just went, "Isn't he nice?" It was an awesome interaction, even if it was just for a short bit. I don't remember much on what happened next, hence why I couldn't remember her name. But that single voice chat changed my entire perspective on things. Of course, it didn't happen instantly, but it really did affect on how I saw things moving forward. It even gave me a bit of hope of meeting Techno Dad myself one day. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? During my last month into this tribute, I wanted to try and condense everything I experienced and learned into a lesson of some sort. Yeah, I wanted to at least have something to take away from this experience. I mean, you wouldn't just do something for a year and not leave with anything. But honestly, when I first went into doing this tribute, I didn't really plan to learn anything, really. It sounds wrong, I know, but back then, all I had in mind was to honor Technoblade, and it wasn't like a group effort or anything. It wasn't something that I had publicly announced to my socials up until the last month. I didn't invite people to do it with me. It was solely something I did for myself because, I don't know, it was just how I wanted to grieve. During the month of July, it was my last month, it felt hard for me to come up with something. Was I a fool for not realizing something? Did I do this tribute for the sake of doing a tribute, nothing else? Have I not learned anything from techno? What was the point? But, as I learned from a few therapy sessions and some reflection, I can't really come up with anything under constant pressure. I originally planned to release a video by June 30th, 2023, Techno's 1 year anniversary. But I couldn't. I mean, sure, I was still pretty busy with other things like life. But really, even if I did have the time, what have I said? I didn't have anything in mind. I wasn't prepared for it. Then July came. It was the last month, like I said. I told myself maybe by the end of July I'll make the video then. But July came and went. Still had no proper video. I tried, but my mind was still messed up. I couldn't piece together a video I thought was good enough to symbolize or show that I really did put a year into this tribute. So I took my time, fleshed out each and every single thing I could fessor up in the year I started wearing pink. Almost everything I learnt, from friends to family. What did I experience? What did I feel? What did I do? What were my highlights and mistakes? What could I say to wrap it all up? I took my time and reflected. So here's what I learned. I wrote it in a poem because I don't know. I feel like poems leave a longer lasting impact on people. Even the tallest fall, even the strongest cry, even the smartest fail, even the mightiest die. Those who can't accept these words are bound to quit. You can't grow up if you can't commit. Learn to be happy with yourself and the world, because this is the only place you know. Make the happiest memories you can remember before you go. Leave your mark. Make people happy. Make people proud. Do something that'll make everyone scream your name out loud. As your eyes begin to close and your vision fades, don't ask why. Be confident in the future because your memory will never die. As I move on, I'll be starting a new life. I've forgiven others for what they did to me, and I've slowly began to forgive myself for what I did to myself. I want to continue doing that in the future, and I hope to become a better version of who I am. I'll continue to treat the people I encounter with respect. Well, as long as I do the same, of course. I hope that with each and every day that passes, I'll slowly come towards that dream I've always wanted to achieve. I want to make people happy. I want to make my family happy. I want to do something that I can be proud of. I don't want to wait for the opportunity to come anymore. I waited long enough. It's about time I put in the effort and become the person I want to be. As I say that, I don't want to forget who I was. The pain I suffered, the trauma I carried, the experiences I've regretted, the mistakes I've done. I can't carry those anymore. I can put them aside and let them be a part of me as I grow. I can't lie to myself any longer. I want these lies to be real, for my words to come true, for the dreams I set out for myself to become a reality. I don't want to pressure myself to fit in with what other people think. I want to continue doing things that make me happy. And I hope they make other people happy too. I want to be a better person. I will be a better person. I'm gonna be a better person. I just hope that when the day comes, when the sun finally sets, I just hope that Techno could be proud of who I am. And maybe one day I'll look back at where I started and be amazed by how far I've come.